Hello and welcome to the EnterpriseTalk Conversation Series, a peer knowledge resource by the CXOs for the CXOs. Now to our host, Kanika Goswami.
Hi everyone. Today we have Jamie Holcombe. He's a CIO at United States Patent and Trademark Office. He has spent more than 2 decades in leadership positions in the commercial and government contracting markets in the US. He has also worked to take technology organizations to the next level by creating cultures of accountability, innovation, and growth. Hi Jamie, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. Would you like to tell us something about the USPTO for our listeners?
Sure. I'm really impressed with the mission of the USPTO. It's now more relevant than ever. We foster creativity and economic growth through our mandate in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 8 of the U.S. Constitution, which promotes the progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries. Me, as the Chief Information Officer, I lead teams to deliver and manage the tools and the systems that record and register intellectual property. In other words, the USPTO operates and maintains the information infrastructure that ultimately supports all American inventions and ideas.
That's great to know, Jamie. Thank you so much for that. So my first question to you is, how has the pandemic affected the government while on its journey on the rapid adoption of digital technology? And this I'm asking with particular focus on the USPTO.
Well, thank you for that question. Before the COVID struck, we actually had one of the greatest telework programs throughout the government. And so we were able to capitalize on our years of success and make the entire organization go telework. In numbers, before the COVID pandemic, we had about 8,000 simultaneous VPN users that remoted in from their home offices, primarily the patent examiners and the trademark examiners. Since the COVID and after, we've had over 14,000 simultaneous VPN connections every day. Everybody is working out of their home office or in a remote location. Now, we do have some people that come in, but they're few and far between. As an example, we have to run a network operations center as well as a security operations center 24 hours, 7 days a week, year round. And so in order to do that effectively, we practice social distancing, everyone wears a mask, and in order to ensure that we wouldn't take a hit if one of our members got COVID, we've separated the actual shifts into 2 physically separate locations. And so we've taken this very seriously, and we've operated this way for a long time now. We didn't expect to be operating this way for over a year. So it's affected our digital transformation in other ways rather than just remote work. What we also do now is everyone is working better. I cannot believe the productivity numbers. We actually have productivity metrics of better, cheaper, and faster for our examiners. And we found that since COVID, our productivity numbers have improved month over month, year over year. We're doing better than we ever did before. Now, I think maybe it's because a lot of folks weren't taking vacation. Heck, there's nowhere to go. So we're trying to ensure that people are taking that vacation and getting a little virtual break. Even if it's a stay-home vacation, they need to take some time off and, rest and relax their productive heads.
Right. So I think that is happening across the place.
I do too. I think many organizations, especially in the government, are facing this. Now with the vaccine coming to fore, and it looks like we're right around the corner from, quote, going back to normal, unquote, we're really looking at the fact that most people may choose to telework. And so we'll take that as it comes, but it's a really, I am anxious to get back to the workforce, back to face-to-face interaction. Maybe not full time, but there's nothing that can take the place of someone looking at you eye to eye and really getting to the depth of a problem and getting to the solution through, face-to-face contact.
Oh, yes, that's completely right. So what technologies do you think have emerged as saviors for the United States Patent and Trademark Office in these times?
Well, there's no such thing as a savior, especially in technology, but we really have relied upon our infrastructure and our network. So if you don't have the bandwidth to do the work you need to do, you could be at a huge disadvantage in performance and the quality of that work. And so as serendipity would have it, we really lucked out. We were planning to move to the cloud in the upcoming year. And so we had increased our bandwidth almost double. And so that was before the pandemic. So when the pandemic hit, we were well prepared to scale into the bandwidth required. That's not the case, but I do think now that more agencies have seen that you really do need to have almost double what you currently use just in case. You might want to pay for that all the time, but at the same time, you need to have that insurance policy to say that you can expand to those business continuity levels because, again, no one expected this, but that's what emergency preparedness and continuity of operations planning is all about.
Right. And because of all these remote working arrangements that most organizations are going with now, there is a spate of cyber attacks everywhere. So what step does the USPTO taking to secure its infrastructure?
Well, we've taken some really fundamental steps with our staff. So besides having the Security Operations Center I mentioned before, 24 hours, 7 days a week, all year round, that monitors our network. Our network is only as good as how far you're willing to protect it, both inside and out. So on the inside, what we did was we took the old, staid, rudimentary, manual, really boring security awareness training, and we created videos that were gamified. In other words, you almost played a game with a video presentation of the security awareness training. And depending upon which avenue you chose, which answer you chose to a challenging question on phishing or social engineering or insider threat, it led you down a certain path. And it was almost fun for the people to play. So not only were they learning while they were playing, their knowledge of security awareness and how different phishing attempts were completed and have been done in the past, everybody liked the training so much. We've gotten so great feedback on the fact that it's really a lot better and it makes it real. It makes it tangible when you interact and gamify a training situation.
That's a very interesting solution to a very tough problem, Jamie. I must say that. So what technological initiatives is the US government planning to take for effective IP protection? I could ask across the globe, but I think we should focus on the US for now.
Sure. Well, as I was saying, it not only on the insider with security training, but also insider threat. Once you've taken care of the outside, and that is a very hard thing to do. You have to make sure you're monitoring correctly, especially your network access points, and that you're responding to these threats. People try to probe you all the time. But once that's taken care of, you got to look at the insider threat as well. How well do your people close the door when they come in the building, right? I mean, just like you need to have good protection and good security awareness, you have to have good password and good PIV card, which is, the government equivalent of a multi-authentication way, not just user and password, but also your chip in the card for your ID. And so through multi-factor authentication, you should be able to trust the other end of the remote unit. Now, there's another theory that we're trying to institute, which is called zero trust. And there's a lot of work going into zero trust. It is not something that you just buy and implement. There is no such thing. In zero trust, the design is such that you're always suspect of whatever session or link there is. And therefore, you pick times where you challenge that session to ensure that the person on the other end is still who they say they were. And of course, you have to have various levels of authority. You should not be seeing something that you're not allowed to see. And so because of that, you have to have roles, and the design architecture of zero trust is so key. So I do think that zero trust is a philosophy, much like quality is a philosophy, but you have to put that into the design of everything you do.
Right. And that was, I think, the last question I had, unless you have something interesting to add about what USTPO is doing right now. Is there anything?
Well, I would like to say that another technology that we're using outside of the cyber realm, or it could be used for cyber as well, is the machine learning algorithms that have come to fore in the last decade. We have been able to take these advanced algorithms and actually create a great way to classify, search, and improve the quality of patents and trademarks and understand fraud better throughout our process. So machine learning has a lot of work ahead, but we're using it effectively at the USPTO.
That's interesting. And about the other technologies, probably if you are using them as well, artificial intelligence perhaps. Do you have any use for artificial intelligence in your processes?
Well, that's a great point, because I always consider machine learning a quasi-artificial intelligence. So when you say AI, I don't believe that there's a singularity. That everybody thinks of the sci-fi films and so forth. There's no such thing as yet exist. But there are very advanced algorithms in which what you program can actually learn from the surroundings based on the sensors. And if that's the artificial learning that you're talking about, it's really a great field. And there's a lot more to come in the future.
So you do see these trends of AI and machine learning having far more applicability in the processes at USPTO as well, right?
Yes, I do. We're just skimming the surface. But remember, artificial intelligence has been around with us for 40 or 50 years. Right. You know, I don't know if people remember that used to be called fuzzy logic way back in the 90s. And now that's just built into a lot of the chips.
Right. You're right there. So, but that's a trend going forward as well. And it's going to be adopted in various different ways as we go forward for a lot of things. So thank you so much, Jamie, for all your inputs to the few questions that we had. I would have liked to have a slightly longer discussion, but unfortunately, this is about it we are going to do this time. We'll request to have you on board once again, if it's okay with you, and we will have another discussion. Thanks so much for your time, Jamie.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much for being with us. Please do follow us on social media for regular updates and new content.